friends, welcome back to my channel. If you've never seen my face before, my name is Dremi Echandia. I talk about anything that's on my mind week after week, and I'm so excited about the video this week because we're going to be talking about the third episode in the second season of Doctor Who, which is called The Well. And this episode is absolutely amazing. If I could rate it, I would give it a 9.5 out of 10. It's almost perfect. I absolutely loved it. And I have high hopes for the rest of the season, which I had pretty good hopes for this season. The episodes so far have been pretty good. So I can't wait to see what the show has in store. So like I usually do in these videos, I'll talk in like a general sense of the episode without any spoilers or anything. For all the people who haven't watched the episode yet but kind of want to know about it, and then I'll talk about like more spoily parts for the people who have watched the episode and just want to kind of see my reaction and comment on it. So I have been recapping the episodes kind of without intending to, but I will do that as well today. So if you kind of need a refresher of the episode, because it's already been, I think, like 2 weeks since the episode came out. I know I'm late, but my scheduling kind of lined up that way. So the recap will have my reactions kind of sprinkled in. And if you haven't watched the episode but still want to watch the recap, you're welcome to. I'm not going to force you not to watch it, but I really, really suggest you watch this episode because it, like I said, it's amazing. And it is chock full of callbacks to like previous episodes and previous Doctors, which if you haven't watched any of Doctor Who is going to be nothing to you. But if you have watched like older Who's but haven't watched like this new season or like even the new Doctor, I think you'll appreciate the callbacks. They are plentiful and they are really cool callbacks. So we start the episode with Belinda and the Doctor still being stuck in space. They're still trying to jump to March 24th, 2025, but they're not able to. Something is repelling them back still, which was kind of expected because the Doctor can't figure out why they can't go back. So he's basically just like landing in different places to pinpoint like the problem, I guess, which I'm not really like following. I'm pretty sure they've explained it and I'm just like not understanding it, but he does have like this machine, which is like a Vindicator machine, I guess, and or a Vindicator reader, and he's basically just like landing in these places which seem to be random. Like I said, maybe they explained it, I didn't understand it. What I'm understanding is that he tries to go to March 24th and wherever he lands, he kind of like pinpoints. But I don't know if there's like another logic that I just haven't understood yet. And he lands there, he exits the TARDIS, and he uses the Vindicator machine. He used it in the last episode in Lux. If you haven't watched that video, you can find it on my page. But that's the first place he put the Vindicator reader on. It's like a little triangle machine. I'll probably like find a picture and put it on here. But now he lands on this other place 500,000 years in the future. And Belinda asks from the get-go, which is fair, I feel. Because at this point, she's losing hope, you know? They keep jumping back from March 24. She understands that the Doctor is still saying, like, oh no, we're gonna get there, like I promised, but Belinda's new to this. Belinda doesn't know that the Doctor usually finds solutions to the problems. She just knows that she's stuck in space and she can't get home, and she can't get to her parents or her job or her life. And so she's starting to lose hope, and she even says like, today's supposed to be Friday. My parents go to a pub. They kind of hang out and they kind of laugh and sing, and I should be there with them, and yet I'm still stuck here, which again, fair. But the Doctor kind of takes her hands and he's like, listen, I understand it's not looking good, but I will figure it out and we will get you home. I can promise you that. And she's kind of, like I said, losing hope. So she's like, you can't promise me that. And he's like, I can, and I will meet your parents and we'll laugh and we'll sing. Like, I understand that you're not trusting because we're new and you don't know me, but please just wait. And I promise I'll get you home, which isn't really super comforting to someone who isn't believing in you. But I mentioned this on the last video. I really like how their relationship is growing more organically rather than what happened with Ruby Sunday, because like I said in the last video or the video before that, their relationship was pretty much they met and then they were best friends and she followed him everywhere. But with Belinda, the doctor has to work a little bit harder to kind of earn her trust and have her like follow him, you know? She won't just do it just because. And I like that because there's like there's like little hints of it working. What I mean is Belinda, you can tell she doesn't trust him, and you can tell, I mean, she trusts him enough to get in the TARDIS, but I feel like that's more like not knowing how to get home, so he's really the only solution. But she doesn't trust him enough to just like go along with whatever he says without questioning it. And I really appreciate that in her and them. And I know I've mentioned it a 1,000 times before, but I really like this relationship that they're building because it seems more realistic to me. You can even tell in this scene because Belinda's like, you're not taking me home. And he's like, listen, I know you need to trust me. And there's like a sudden change in her face where you can see she is starting to trust him. And I really appreciate that small detail where it's a more human response to losing your faith a little bit and having someone kind of pull you back. But anyway, I've talked enough about this. It's just organic, okay? It's just an organic relationship that's building, and I appreciate it. Let's move on. So like I said, they land 500,000 years in the future, which is in the trailer. It's not like a major spoiler. And Belinda, rightfully so, asks if humans are even a thing anymore, and if Earth is a thing, because she comes from a time where the world is going to end in a couple of years and humanity isn't in its best place, which is why I say it's like a fair question. Like, is Earth even real? And so they land there for another Vindicator reading, like I said before. And the doctor answers by saying, even if humans aren't real, you're real. So you make humans real. And I thought that was cool. That was nice. And it's kind of like a small callback, but not really, to Eccleston, because they have an episode called The End of the World where it's the end of the world. And they show like the last human, and it's just basically a trampoline because she's had so much work done. It's just like skin with a face, and her name's Cassandra. Shout out to Cassandra. And it's kind of like a callback to that because they arrive and they show Cassandra, and Rose is like, that's not human. I would be the last human. So it's kind of like a callback to Rose being the last human and owning that she's the last human. She doesn't accept that Cassandra's a human. But yeah, they land in 500,000 years in the future. And it's really exciting because Belinda is ready to go in this episode. So the doctor says, we landed, so I just need to get the Vindicator thing. And she's like, okay, but where are we? 500,000 years in the future. Okay, do we have to wear these outfits? And the doctor goes, oh, you're starting to like this. And so that was really cool. So that was really cute. And then the episode starts. So I can't really tell you much about it without spoiling too much. I will say they land in a planet that is in trouble because, of course. And they have really good characters here. They introduce a character called Shaya Castellian, and I immediately loved her because she's like a strong woman. She's the captain. She takes no shits either, which I feel like it's just a personality trait for me. I just like women who don't take shits from men. But anyway, I really like Shaya Castellian, but I really like this like storyline that they used. I don't know if I mentioned it before, but the episode is full of callbacks to other episodes. I'm pretty sure I did. But aside from those callbacks, the episode itself, like the core episode, is a really good episode. And it reminded me of old adventures from like Eccleston and like Tennant and maybe Matt Smith too. We'll throw him in there. But it reminded me of like those adventures because each doctor has like a feel to his like adventures and stuff, and obviously not all adventures will be the same or even similar, Some will be like more lighthearted, or others will be more serious, creepy, whatever. But this one reminded me a lot of like old episodes. It reminded me kind of the Satan Pit. Obviously it's called The Well, so it's kind of just a hole in the ground. But it reminded me of that because it's the doctor in a strange planet in a spacesuit and with a ragtag group of whoever is working there. So that really reminded me of that. And it's just like high risk, you know, high stakes. And I'm not saying like Lux wasn't high stakes, or like even like the older ones with Ruby Sunday weren't high stakes, but it felt more high stakes to the doctor and the companion specifically, rather than like a whole planet or like a whole like group of people. In this case, like the squadron that were exploring the planet. And the planet that they came from too is also in trouble. But I don't know. I liked it. I like that kind of adventure, I guess. Yeah, I think that's the most I can really say without spoiling too much. So I'll move on to like the spoily section here, which my husband doesn't like that I call it the spoily section, but we'll figure out a name for it, don't worry. I'm gonna keep calling it the spoily section for now, and we're 3 episodes in, so it might just stay the spoily section. But yeah, let's get started. So like I said, in the non-spoiler section, they land 500,000 years in the future, and Belinda asks if they're wearing the same outfits because they're still in their Lux costumes with the yellow dress, and he's wearing his like suit and bow tie. And the doctor says, "You're liking this," and they go put on spacesuits. And when they put spacesuits on, Toxic by Britney Spears plays, which is again a callback to the End of the World episode with Eccleston and Rose Tyler, because it's basically like a party celebrating the end of the world. It's not really celebrating, but they're there to see the world explode. And Cassandra gets there as the last human on Earth, and she gives a gift to everybody, because that was like the thing that you did at the party. You would give a gift to everybody invited. And she gave the gift of music, I guess, which she uses Toxic by Britney Spears as the gift, as like the song of the world. And so Toxic plays while they change clothes, and I thought that was really funny. But they basically leave the TARDIS, and they're in a ship where they open the door, and they are basically in a lineup of soldiers who are ready to jump from their ship. And I feel like it's, well, my husband pointed out too, but it's really lucky that they chose the right outfit, because they had to put a helmet on and jump, and if it was not the right outfit, they would not have survived that. By the way, I apologize in advance. I am recording a little bit later than I'm used to, so the sun is being the sun. If it gets darker, sorry about that. Anyway, let's go back. So I rewatched this episode because the first watch I just wanted to enjoy it, and then this one was the one where I took notes. And I didn't notice this the first time, but they are the first 2 to jump from the ship, but they're also the last 2 to land. I was like, that math doesn't math, but I just wanted to point that out. I was like, what? How are you the last to land if you were the first to jump? Anyway, they land on the ground, and they put the little vindicator thing on, and once they like do, the soldiers all point their guns at them, which is fair. These are 2 people that they're not familiar with. Also, why did they have 2 extra helmets? I just noticed that. Why did they have 2 extra helmets that Belinda and the doctor could use? They were just ready. Anyway, they ask who they are, and they're like, "I'm the doctor, and this is Nurse Belinda Chandra," which I guess is her name now. She's Nurse Belinda Chandra. And psychic paper makes an appearance. If you don't know what the psychic paper is, it's basically a piece of paper that's psychic. Did you expect that? Anyway, it's a piece of paper where the doctor can kind of psychically make it show whatever he wants. And it's literally a blank piece of paper. It never shows anything, but the person who's reading it will see whatever he wants them to see. or not even, sometimes it doesn't even show what he wants them to see. It just shows whatever will get them out of the situation. So sometimes it's a really funny thing that shows up, and then he's like, what did you say? But he basically tells them that he asks them who their leader is, very alien of him, and they answer that it's squadron leader Chinchapa, and he says that he's on top of Chinchapa, so he's more important, so he's supposed to be here. And Belinda explains that they're like a mystery shopper, so they're not supposed to know that they're supposed to be there. Like, the soldiers aren't supposed to know that they're supposed to be there, which I feel is an explanation they've used before. Like, oh yeah, I'm just here from corporate to check on you guys and see if everything's good. But anyway, she accepts that, and she introduces herself as platoon leader Shaya Castellian. And like I said, I liked her from the get-go. She has a very good, like, strong energy about her. She's like, she doesn't take shits from anybody. Like I said, she's the leader, so she is ready for action. She introduces the squadron, and she says this is planet 6767, which the atmosphere has galvanic radiation. I do have notes because I did not memorize all of this, but basically galvanic radiation is what it sounds like. It's radiation, and it basically kills anything. So that would that's like to suggest that the planet has no life in it because of the radiation. And they're supposed to be there to check like a colony base 15. But the Vindicator is done, so they ask if they could just like get it right back to their TARDIS, and they're like, no, how do you do that? We don't know how to do that. And apparently the only way to do that is to take their ship all the way down and get them back up, and that would take 5 hours. So they're stuck there for at least 5 hours. So they decide to just go with it and see what's going on there. So like I said, they get to the colony base 15, and the mission is because there are 35 miners that work there. It's a mining base with a mercury drop line, so it's dangerous. But there's 35 miners inside that haven't responded in a while, and they can't read their heart signals because of the radiation. So they have to go and check to see if they're okay, basically. And one of the soldiers says, but maybe it's because of the radiation, so there's still hope that there's still like heart readings, and we just can't read them on our machine. And Shaya throws this phrase out here, which is hope is irrelevant, and it comes later on. But I thought it was like an interesting thing to point out, because you can tell like what the attitude of this like platoon is. If hope is irrelevant, like what has happened so far where they just don't hope anymore. But like I said, it'll come back later on. Anyway, they get to the mining place, and they point out that the elevator that takes you down to the mines only holds 6 people, which seems irrelevant right now, but it is important later on. And one of the soldiers annoyed me from the get-go. They don't say his name right away, but I just called him Trigger Happy because he was ready to shoot anything that moved. And it was like, dude, could you, like, we're trying to search for people. Why are you so like adamant on like killing everything, you know? And he's also like a kind of an asshole. Like, he just likes fighting against like Shaya and just being a nuisance, honestly. They do say his name later on, and I'll call him here. It's Cassio. His name is Cassio. But he's just annoying. I hate him. Anyway, I just wanted to let you guys know that I really hate Cassio. But anyway, he's really trigger happy, like I said, and Belinda thinks that maybe what happened is from underground because they're mining for something, and maybe something is disturbed from the earth below. But the doctor points out that it's impossible for anything to live here because of the radiation. And so they kind of establish that there's nothing that's supposed to be living here because of the radiation. And then a really funny like interaction happens between the doctor and Cassio, where Cassio tells him that he shouldn't take off his like protection because they have their spacesuits, and on top they have like casings, I guess, and then the helmets, and then they take off the helmets and everyone just keeps going, but the doctor and Belinda start taking off like the casings to just stay with the spacesuits on. And Cassio says, you shouldn't take off your casings. And the doctor says, oh, I'm just not loving the outfit, babes. I come in peace. And Cassio says, it's not appropriate for you to call me babes. And the doctor responds, okay, hun. I love him. I love Shruti. I love his vibe. But anyway, back to seriousness, because it's just a serious episode. They start searching around the mines and they find a body. And Belinda goes to check on it because she's a nurse. That's her instinct. And Chaya, from the beginning, like from the get-go, she's like, be careful, like don't get close, which is fair because they don't know what's going on. But Belinda does it anyway. And the body to check if it's dead or if it's alive, and it's dead. Spoilers. The body is completely out of life. Not only that, all the bones are broken on the body, which is weird. But they go deeper into the mines and they find more bodies. But not all of them are in the same state. So half of them have been shot and then half of them are completely like broken. And then Belinda notices that all the mirrors are broken as well, which is weird. And so the soldier that said about like the heart readings not being able to be read because of the radiation, her name is Mel. And she says that has to be really strong in order to break mirrors and break bones. So basically they're really confused as to what would have the power to do all that. And then trigger happy Cassio is ready to nuke the place without exploring it to see if there's anyone alive. But Mo does get a heart signal and there is one person that's alive. So they arrive at this giant room which kind of looks like a landing strip. But I did tell my husband that it reminded me of the jail in Guardians of the Galaxy. If I was a bigger fan, I would know the name of the jail or the planet it's on. But it reminded me of that aesthetically. Like the central area where they eat, I guess. Where the riot begins. But it reminded me of that. And so she's sitting right in the middle of it. I'm guessing not expecting for anyone to come. She was ready to die there, I guess. But her name is Alice Papa Fenley. And she is Steph, which is important later on. But she's alone in the giant room and she's next to a dead body. And obviously they come in and see the dead body next to her and they're like, yo, did you kill her? So, are you dangerous? What's going on? Well, they're not that cool. They're ready to shoot. But she explains that she's been here alone for a couple of days. She explains she's been here alone for 15 days and that she has a daughter in Monpasso with her granddad. She explains later on that she did kill the person next to her, but it's because they all went crazy and she was going to kill her. So she was just defending herself and killed her before she could kill her. That's confusing. So the dead body's called Sal. So she killed Sal before Sal could kill her. That's where we are. And this was a really cool thing to point out. So the doctor knows sign language now, which is a callback to an episode with, I believe, so it's a Capaldi episode called Under the Lake, where he says that he deleted his knowledge of sign language for another language. And I thought it was really cool that he relearned the language in order to be able to speak to Alice, but he's the only one that knows sign language. And so he starts talking to Alice in sign language and they say, please talk so everyone else can hear. And the doctor says, sorry, Alice, sign language still kind of scares people. So they use this little like machine, like a little button where it kind of like captions whatever you say. And I thought that was really cool. And so Alice is adamant about going home, which is understandable. She's been alone for 15 days, but it's also kind of suspicious because why do you keep mentioning going home, you know? And so, which, I mean, Belinda has been doing. Yeah, we all just want to go home, I guess. But she just wants to go home, wants to go back to her daughter. And this is where she kind of explains that everyone went crazy and that's why she killed Sal, because Sal tried to kill her. And she explains that she's just a cook, that she's just there to cook for the people, and she doesn't even cook. She just kind of opens bags and puts salt in them. And Belinda approaches her because she notices that Alice is injured. Alice explains that she just fell and she scraped her hand, which we don't really ever know if that was real or not. But we're gonna go with yes because they never like contested or anything. And then Shaya says again, please don't approach. So I feel like she's very anxious about approaching anything. And Belinda says, sorry, I can't sign. And Alyssa says, what do you mean you can't sign? Nurses have to sign. It's against the law to not know how to sign. And Belinda says, I have different laws, but I do agree that we all should sign. Which I agree. But Alyssa explains she's been alone for 15 days. And the doctor asks why she thinks this happened, if it was maybe like a gas leak, or if the same mercury that they're surrounded by maybe like leaked out. And Alice just doesn't know, and she starts like getting frustrated, and the doctor's like, it's okay. And then Cassio starts being annoying again, and he starts saying, oh, so just forgetting protocol, we're just like talking to people. And I was like, as opposed to what, just shooting them? Like, what is wrong with you? But Shaya points out that she highly doubts that Alice, who is a very like small woman who's very nervous, obviously, she doubts that she killed 34 minors by herself. And Cassio kind of like throws back in her face what she said before. He says like, you hope, and hope is irrelevant. Which, fine, 1 point for you, Cassio, but you still fucking suck. Anyway. So Shaya decides to go to the well to see what happened there, because that's where the miners work. And she says that the doctor can stay here if he wants, but the doctor says, no, I really want to see the well, and tells Belinda to just stay here and like tend to Alice. And of course, Cassio's ready to shoot. So he says, if anything, like if she does anything, just shoot. Are you okay? Like, in your head, are you okay? It's just annoying all the time. But like I said, Alice has like a graze on her hand, so Belinda starts like trying to like mend it with a med pack, which, by the way, the med pack, Mo brings it over and she's like, sorry, it's basic stuff. And Belinda goes, that's okay, but I don't really recognize anything. And Mo points out that's a really weird thing for a nurse to say, which true. But she does recognize Sibyllin, which was also in Robot Revolution, the first episode of this season. So our girl Belinda is learning. So she tends to Alice's graze and she says, I'm just gonna like rebend it for you. And then that's where like Alice kind of like looks around worried. She says she's very kind, but she looks worried. So that's where you get the idea that she knows more than she's letting on. Anyway, they move over to the doctor and Shaya in the well, and they notice that there are no dead bodies here. So they figure that this is like the first like site of what happened. And I'm being very like detail oriented on this part, like play by play, because the cuts I think are very like strategic here. So they mentioned that they mine for carbon 46, which is what they call it, which is important for later. They later explain what carbon 46 is. But the system that monitors the well isn't working because they have like what they call a restraining bolt, and like on what reads the things and on the cameras and stuff. So Shaya shoots at it and hits it right on point, which is just to point out that she's a very good shot, which again is important for later. And so we get a little backstory about who Shaya is. She explains that she's been in the force for 14 years. She explains she's been on the force since she was 14, and the doctor says it's kind of early to be on the force, and she explains that the war started the day she was born. She's a citizen of Lombardo, which I feel would have been more important, but I researched it and they talked about it in an episode called Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, which was a Matt Smith and Amy adventure, and Rory was there. But she basically talks about she's a good shot because she grew up in war, so she learned. She grew up in the woodlands, she called it. And then something important happens because the doctor mentioned something about Earth. I don't remember what exactly he said, but Shaya says, oh, sorry, I don't know about Earth. And he says Earth, like the human race. And she's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So this is the first instance where they point out that the Earth doesn't exist in this reality. And so they cut back to Belinda and Mo, and Belinda and Mo are talking. Belinda kind of says like a turn of phrase, I guess. And Mo doesn't recognize it. She's like, what do you mean? And Belinda says, oh, is that not a thing anymore? Like that was an Earth thing back when. And Mo says, what do you mean? What's Earth? And so Belinda finds out Earth isn't a thing. But Belinda looks at Alice and she sees something behind her and she kind of gets spooked. But then she's like, no, it was just my head. I didn't see anything. It's fine. So she goes to help Alice and kind of talks to her as well about humans. And Alice says that she's never heard of humans either. And then my husband pointed out that Alice said, I've never heard of you. But Belinda had never said that she herself was a human. So he thought that was like a red flag. And I didn't notice it. So it's on him for noticing. They cut back to the doctor and he fixes the feed with the sonic remote. And the video from the mine is corrupted. By the way, Cassio is annoyed by anything he does because he goes, oh, it's corrupted. We can't use it. Or he goes, oh, the feed is gone. And so he fixes it. And so he says, but the video is corrupted. And he fixes it. So Cassio's like, he just wants to be a pain in the ass at this point. But the video from the mine, it basically has a miner saying it came out of the well. We don't know how to stop it. And by that point, there's some soldiers that come in and they interrupt Shaya and they say there's no one left alive. Alice is the only one left alive. So they cut back to Belinda, who is talking to Alice, and she sees the thing behind her again. And one of the other soldiers sees it too, which I'll call asshole number 2. But he shrugs it off as well. He's like, no, I didn't see anything, because you kind of see it. You don't see it right behind her. You kind of see it like poking out from a side. And so you could like chalk it up to just seeing nothing where nothing is, because they do kind of look around. They look behind her, kind of just peeking out, and there's nothing behind her. So just assuming that maybe they're seeing things. And so they all try to look behind her, but there's nothing, like I said. And then Mo decides to tell her to turn towards her just to see if Mo can see what they're talking about. And she does. But by turning around for her, there's people who are looking directly behind her. Not standing behind her, but they're looking directly at her, and there's nothing. But that's where Alice tells them that she knows what they're talking about because she's seen it before, and that's why she killed her friend. So they decide to do a full circle while looking at her, kind of just like walk around just to see if something appears for like a second. But before anything happens, they change back to the doctor and Shaya and Cassio, who's I guess there. And they're able to, like in the video, there's a miner screaming something else in the background. And again, Cassio says, we can't hear what he's saying. We can't like listen to only him. And the doctor proves him wrong again. And the miner's saying, we don't know what it is. But this like triggers like a memory in the doctor. And he starts asking about the planet to see if he can figure it out. And he asks about the radiation and where it came from, why it's happening. And they answer that it came from a star that's dead now. And that happened like 400,000 years ago. And that when it died, they came and mined all the carbon-46 and left. And the doctor was like, okay, what's carbon-46 then? And he says that they're diamonds. The planet is covered in diamonds. And this is the point that my husband realized what was happening. And I was still confused because he was like, no way. And I was like, what? But he didn't tell me. He left it. And then they change back to Alice. This is why I said I'm going play by play, because I feel like the cuts were really like intentional and really good, I guess. But they change back to Alice and she's begging for them to stop, to not go like behind her, because she knows what will happen if they do. And so they turn back to the doctor. They just want to do that one shot. they turn back to the doctor and he asks more about the planet. He's still asking to see if he can figure out. So he asks about the planet's name, which she says Planet 6767, which I don't know if I mentioned before. And he's like, yeah, that's the new name. What's the old name? And they say it's Midnight. And to any old Doctor Who fan, you know exactly what they're talking about. So there's an episode called Midnight with Doctor and Donna, which is one of the creepiest episodes, but they're basically on the planet where it was still covered in diamonds, and they're like in a spa place. And so the Doctor goes like on a tour of the planet while Donna stays behind because she wants to stay in the spa, and the Doctor has kind of like an adventure of his own. And I really recommend watching it if you haven't. I feel like it's one of the best Tennant episodes. It's very creepy. It's basically what we're seeing now. It's a creature that comes aboard the tour bus that they're on, the tour spaceship that they're on, kind of going around the island, which they're in because there's, I don't know if it's radiation outside. There's something outside that doesn't let them go outside to like walk. But something gets in the ship and it starts playing with them basically. And they all start turning on each other, and it's a really good episode. But moving on, because we're not here to talk about that episode. But I really want to rewatch it. Like they said Midnight and I was like, to rewatch that episode. They cut back to Alice and them, and the soldier finally gets all the way behind her, and she's shot out by whatever is behind Alice, and all her bones are broken and she's dead. And so they argue about that. They obviously want to shoot Alice, specifically asshole number 2, even though he's the one that told her to go, because they think Alice did it. And Belinda's like, how was it her? She didn't move. And so by that point, Shaya and Cassio show up, and now they see the dead body and they want to shoot too because Cassio's there and he wants to shoot anything. And so Alice explains that she knows what's going on, that there's something behind her all the time, but no one knows what it is and no one can see it. And she says that it came out of the well, and everyone said that it started laughing. Obviously she couldn't hear because she's deaf. And then that's when Belinda kind of interjects and she's like, just look behind her. Look behind her and you'll see. And then Cassio says that it's a trick or an illusion and to ignore whatever the doctor is saying. Because obviously, I guess he doesn't like other people knowing more than him. Even though everyone knows more than him because he's a dumbass. But the doctor says just listen to Belinda because she's been here. She saw what happened. Because that's the logical thing to do. But he says that they needed to listen to Belinda, and Belinda kind of explains what she saw happen to Hanno, which is the soldier that got all the way behind Alice and got shot out. And he points out that it happens because when you get all the way behind her, you're at midnight. If it was a clock face, you're going to midnight and you die at midnight, which was very clever. And then Cassio is ready to kill her, a huge shocker, but Alice explains that if he does that, it wouldn't resolve anything because the thing, whatever is behind her, will just jump to Cassio. And if he really thought that the whatever creature it is chose her as a first victim, like, it doesn't make sense. It just passed between the miners as they were killing each other, and since she killed Sal, who was the last person who had it, she had it on her now. And that's where they reveal his name. I made a note here that says Trigger Happy is named Cassio. Fuck Cassio. Anyway, the doctor says that he's encountered this creature before because he was here when the world was still covered in diamonds in another life. And he remembers the creature being on him. And when he was on him, I'll kind of explain what happened in the episode, but really briefly, he basically it would jump onto somebody, and then that somebody would start repeating whatever you said. And then at one point it started doing it backwards, where it would say what you were going to say before you said it. That's why it's really creepy. But this time the creature is just behind you, and people just go crazy, I guess, because they see something behind them and they can't like see it or get rid of it. And so Cassio calls a coup. He tells Shaya, "You're not fit to lead us anymore, so I invoke the red code," which is the coup, and asks if anyone seconds him. And of course, asshole number 2 seconds his motion. And he starts acting without thinking because, again, he's stupid. So he starts going around Alice and asks asshole number 2 if he wants to sacrifice himself, basically, and stand behind Alice. And so he tells Alice to look at her, and surprise, surprise, asshole number 2 dies. But then Cassio goes bonkers, and he stops thinking, not that he was thinking before, and he just starts running around in a panic and getting people killed because they end up right behind her, and the doctor just tells everybody to look away, but obviously some people don't. So Cassio ends up killing 4 people. His dumbassery. And since he's running around like a chicken with his head cut off, Shaya says, "Alice, just look at me." Shaya says, "Alice, turn 180," because she's still looking at Cassio. And she does. And so Shaya kind of like stands exactly where she can't see Cassio, and kills Cassio. And Shaya kind of says, "I had to. He was going crazy," which I agree with. I agree with that decision, Shaya. Good job. But the doctor's like, "This is what it does to us." And like, I understand that. But also, Cassio was going to keep killing people. So, but they decide that this is the point where they have to leave. Like, they have no way of really doing anything that would help right now because it is on her and they don't know how to get rid of it. And this was a really sad moment because it meant leaving Alice behind, and she just wanted to go home to her daughter. And they all apologize because she's being contaminated. They can't really take her. And then the doctor turns around to kind of talk to everybody, and Alice really, like, she gets really sad and she's like, "Please don't turn your back on me," which was really like a really impactful moment for me because obviously she meant don't turn your back on me, like leave me, but also don't turn your back on me because I can't read your lips and I don't know what you're saying and I'm in a panic. And so the doctor apologizes for doing that because that was kind of asshole. I'm not gonna lie. But the doctor decides to talk to whatever is behind Alice. And so he goes all the way to Alice and he says, "I'm talking to whatever is behind Alice." And he calls it his old friend and says, "You've been stuck here for 400,000 years." And kind of just talks to him to see if he can figure out how to get Alice out. And they all hear the whispering, but Alice doesn't. And the doctor figures that maybe that's why she's still alive and why she didn't go crazy, because she can't hear the whispering. And that's why it's important that she's deaf. But the whispers are talking to the doctor and they tell the doctor his name, which it knows because it attached to him at midnight. So it kind of knows everything about him. And I want to take a moment to kind of explain why that's important, especially if you haven't seen Doctor Who. So the doctor is called the Doctor because he can't tell anybody his real name. Nobody knows his real name except for like a handful of people. Like River Song knows his name, and I guess this creature knows his name, and I'm pretty sure the Master also knows his name. But the whole point of knowing the Doctor's name is because if you know a creature's name, you know how to defeat them. I'm pretty sure he established that like a while ago. So he doesn't tell anybody his name, so no one knows his name. And so whenever he encounters someone that does know his name, he knows he's in danger. So that's basically why he's called the Doctor. And so that's why it's impactful that this creature knows his name, and he is like scared shitless basically because he's like, "How do you know my name?" But it's obviously because of the midnight thing. And then the doctor figures that whenever someone goes behind the thing, they die. So what if the thing goes behind the thing? It'll make sense in a second. He remembers that they're in a mercury drop. So he tells the captain to shoot at like a pipe that's behind Alice, and mercury starts falling down, which creates a mirror. which is why they broke all the mirrors in the ship, because the thing can't look at themselves. So they create a mirror and they all look at Alice so that the thing is right behind him. Like the thing is right behind the thing. And so when it's reflected on himself, it kind of pushes Alice, and it's now like free of Alice. So they start all running to the elevator that they were in before. And this is where I think the doctor made a mistake, because they all start running to the elevator, but the doctor stops because he wants to see the creature, and Belinda stops with him, which I feel were minutes that could have saved them. Not that they die, but like spoilers. But they could have avoided the situation that happened later on. But they do reach the elevator, and then half of them go in, which is 3 of them. So 2 soldiers that are left and Alice go in. And Alice signs thank you to the doctor because she gets to see her little baby. But they pan to the elevator, and it says that there's 4 people in the elevator, which I didn't really notice on my first watch. My husband did. And then we saw it in like comments. But I didn't really notice until the second watch. I was like, oh yeah, it's really obvious. But if you're not paying attention to how many people went in and how many people are left, and you know, I feel like I understand how I missed it. It's a very tense moment. So there are 4 people in the elevator, even though there's 3 actual people. So I kind of like let you know that there's something in there with them. But no one notices. So Shia, Mo, the doctor, and Belinda are left. They're kind of putting all their stuff on and waiting for the elevator to come back. But the creature is now in the room with them. And so the elevator gets there, and Mo says, let's go. And the doctor's like, I'm sorry, but one of us now has the creature on them. And they all kind of look at each other, because if you're looking at each other, no one's behind whoever has it, you know? So they're all kind of standing in a circle. And they all kind of go, it's not me. Like, I don't feel it. And it's not me. And it's not me. And Belinda starts crying. She's the only one that doesn't say it's not me. And the doctor's like, maybe it's not you. Maybe none of us have it. But she starts hearing the whispering. And she knows this is basically it, that maybe she would have to stay behind. But Shia, being the absolute queen she is, she says, I'm a good shot, so maybe I can shoot you right above the heart, which won't kill you, but it almost will. And Belinda obviously says, but then it'll attach to you, and I don't want that. And Shia says, this is my job, this is what I was here to do. And she shoots her, and she gets the creature. And while they attend to Belinda, she runs away, which the doctor doesn't notice for a while, but then he runs after her. And they kind of show you like her past, like of her being a kid in like a war-ridden area, running away from like the monsters, and saying that this was her destiny and this is what she was supposed to do. I'm not gonna lie, guys, I was rewatching it now, and I full on cried watching Shia run away towards the well. She was running towards the well, and knowing what she was about to do, I cried the whole time. The first time I got emotional, but this second rewatch, I was full on crying, because I knew what happened probably. But she gets to the well, and she kind of like turns around and kind of like falls back, and the doctor screams no. He tries to stop her, but he's too far away to grab her, so she falls to her death basically. And so they cut back to Belinda, and she's still like trying to like get her settled, and she asks for Similin. She's learning, but they're now back in the TARDIS, and she has like heart monitors and everything trying to calm her down. She'll be fine. She's survived that. She asked about Shia, and the doctor has to tell her that he couldn't stop her. He wasn't able to save her. And Belinda just obviously gets upset, but she points out that she talked to people about Earth and about humans, and they didn't know what Earth was. And the doctor said, I don't know either. I'm not sure why, because he also noticed it. Obviously, he also had conversations with them, and so they both kind of lie down and kind of like understand what could be going on, because if Earth isn't real, it was either destroyed a really long time ago where history has forgotten about it, or it was completely erased from history. So obviously they don't know what's going on. But then the last scene cuts back to Mo talking to home base, kind of telling them what happened. She tells them that Shia should be recognized for her bravery because she sacrificed herself for her team. And then she also says that Cassio should be, which I disagree with. Cassio shouldn't be. Cassio put them all in danger and was just a nuisance most of the time. But that's beside the point. And then whoever she's talking to starts asking her about the doctor, because Mo mentions that the doctor who was there agrees with Cassio that they should nuke the place now that there's no one there that's alive. They should nuke the place and just like get rid of it. And that's where the voice asks about the doctor. And as soon as I heard the voice, I was like, is that Mrs. Flood? And then they show her and I was like, mother. No. But she basically asks about the doctor, and Mo says, yeah, he was here. He got into like a blue box, and Mrs. Blood asks her, she has another name in the episode, but I don't even care about learning her names now. She asks if he was carrying the Vindicator thing, the Vindicator machine, and Mo says yes. And Flood was like, okay, that's very good news. That's all I wanted to know. And then they cut again without giving us any information. I swear she's driving me insane. But anyway, Mo hears the TARDIS leaving outside, and she goes to investigate. And she doesn't catch the TARDIS. When she gets out there, it's already gone. But she does run into another soldier called Val. And Val is like, what was that? And she says, you know what? I don't know. I don't know what it was, and I'm okay with not knowing. And so Val asks her how the mission was, that it sounded like a nightmare down there. And while Mo is explaining, Val kind of looks behind her with like a worried face. And Mo looks behind her and doesn't see anything, but she knows what's going on. And she asks what's happening. And Val says, I thought I saw something behind you, and it cuts to black and you can hear the whispers. And the fact, so this is when my husband got a low-key triggered because he says, what do you mean that Shia killed herself for nothing? So now I guess this crew is in trouble. Like, they're not gonna survive another attack by this creature, and Alice has to live through this again. She's stuck in the ship with the creature. Unless Mo figures out something to do, maybe she jumps out of the ship or something, but the fact that they left it in the cliffhanger is, I don't know, I would love to say that I hated it, but honestly, I did not. I thought that was an amazing ending to this episode, and even though I would love for them to continue it and see what happens after that, I know they won't, and I feel like that's a good decision. But Jesus Christ, like seeing Val's face, because obviously they're talking, and then Val goes like, me and my husband were like, no, no, Alice is not gonna get to her little girl. Then they showed the trailer for the next episode, which has Ruby Sunday, which whatever, we'll see. Yeah, that was the episode, and it was, like I said, amazing. I love all the like callbacks that it had to past episodes and past Doctors. I thought it was really cool. It didn't surprise me that I had a really good rating for an episode, and it, like I said, it reminded me of like old adventures with like the first new Doctors. And yeah, I have really high hopes for the rest of the season. Sorry, Lux, this is now my favorite episode of this season. Which I feel happens to me a lot. I just like the next episode a lot more than I like the past episode. So maybe the next episode will surpass this one, but I doubt it. Like, it has to be amazing in order to like surpass this one. But we'll see. Anyways, that was the episode this week. So the next episode is called Lucky Day. And like I said, it has Ruby Sunday on it with a boyfriend, I guess. And it's already like, I don't know, it's already giving me weird vibes because it's like the boyfriend is jealous of the doctor and what the doctor means to Ruby Sunday, which is giving me Danny Pink vibes, and I hated Danny Pink. It's also giving me Mickey vibes. What I also hate? I just hate the boyfriends. Except for Rory. Although Rory was kind of annoying at the beginning. Tangent. Anyway, thank you for tuning in this video. If you liked it, please remember to like and subscribe and hit the little bell notification that lets you know that I have uploaded. And I'll see you guys on the next one. We'll see what happens the next episode. Bye.